Good morning. Welcome to the garden. Look at this poor little salvia plant. So I was actually very, very excited to grow this. This is an unplugged pink salvia. It's a really, really beautiful, beautiful plant. And I'm still gonna grow it, but I wanted to just sit down and chat with you a little bit. So when this happens, which is that this plant got completely chopped off, I had it next to the shed and it was a windy day and the shed door blew open and it just smashed the plant. So now I have a very beautiful bouquet in the middle of my kitchen table, and I have a really sad plant that has a couple little leaves, but the two big main stalks are completely chopped off, which is just, oh, you know, always a little devastating. But not to worry, I think that this plant will recover. So when you have something like this happen, it's really, really hard to see. I was genuinely sad because the blooms on this flower were stunning and I was really excited. I have a new space that I want to plant some more things in, and I was all excited to add this to that space as kind of like a big focal piece. And now the instant impact of that is going to be, it's going to take longer. But it's not really something to totally worry about. A lot of the professional growers actually say that you do more damage if you mess with the root systems. So, you know, a lot of times we're taught to come in and make sure that the roots aren't root bound. So to like just tease the roots a little bit, which is something you definitely should do if your roots are really, really root bound. But if they're not super root bound, a lot of growers actually say like don't mess with the roots too much, because it's really the roots that are more delicate. And a lot of growers will say that you can just like, yeah, even chop a plant off like this and it's going to rebound and the plant's actually going to be totally fine. Now, that is true. I think the plant is going to be totally fine, but the sort of like, yeah, instant impact that it was going to have in my garden is not going to be quite what it would. And so it is definitely a little disappointing. What I am going to do is go ahead and put this into a bigger pot. I think that that's probably the best thing. You can see that there are some roots coming out of the bottom, so it definitely could use a bigger pot. It probably is a little root bound, so I'm going to put it in a bigger pot. I'm going to give it probably as much sun as I can. I think it's a full to part sun plant, which is why I liked it. It's a full to part sun plant, so you actually can grow it in some shade, but given that we're dealing with such, you know, this recovery process, I'm going to go ahead and put it in full sun. I'm going to fertilize it weekly, and we'll just see how long it takes to recover. But if you've had any losses in your garden recently, you're not alone. It happens to all of us. And I may have to go to the garden center, I think, and just, you know, replace it or give it some friends to fill up the garden with blooms while we wait for this to flower again. Okay, so what size pot am I going to put it in? I'm thinking, I got this I think, gosh, it's probably like a 6-inch pot. Right now it's in this little 4-inch pot. I think if I put it in a pot this size, it will be in enough space for it to grow basically for the rest of the season. I was gonna put it in a combination like with some other plants, but I'm worried, given that it's so small, that if I put it into a combination with a bunch of other flowers, that it just won't have enough like sunlight. And that's the thing. I'm not like worried about it as a plant that again, that it's going to recover. It has those 2 sets of leaves. If it had lost all its leaves, I might be worried that it wouldn't even actually recover, but it has 2 sets of leaves. So I think it will definitely grow. But if I put it, like, let's say I put it next to, I don't know, like a Sunfinity sunflower, would have looked gorgeous. When it had those big stems and lots of leaves on it, it would have been fine. It would have grown beautifully next to it. This is a Proven Winners annual. I mean, this is like a high producing plant, and these salvias get huge. They will become absolutely massive, and they're super long growing. I've had some of these that got like 3 feet tall, 3 feet wide, big, bushy. pollinators, bees love them. So a big competitive like thriller plant for a container. But since it's small like this, I don't want to stick it in a container with a bunch of plants and then risk it just getting kind of drowned out by the other plants. So I'm just going to put it in its own little pot like this. We're going to give it a nice spot. We're going to keep an eye on it, give it lots of baby tender care, and then we're going to get we're just going to get some other plants in the meantime. And I think that's what you do when something like this happens and you feel sad. I think you go get some other plants to fill it. So let me give you quick details, the official details on the plant. I'm going to grab the plant tag and then we will plant it up into its new pot and put it in the plant hospital. Okay, so here's the blooms. Full to part sun. It's a 14 to 30 inch plant, and that is my experience. I have grown some of the other salvias like this from Proven Winners, I think the Unplugged series, and they have gotten huge. They have been beautiful. Oh my gosh, I had a blue version of this and the hummingbirds were all over it last season. Absolutely loved it. It's gonna bloom all the way to frost. That is not a joke. The Unplugged salvias that I've grown in the past have been some of the longest flowering, longest growing flowers that I have had in my garden. They have totally gone all the way through to frost. They have been just so beautiful. 30 inches, as I said. Zones, yeah, hardy to zone 25. That's what I'm saying. I've really noticed that this, like, it will keep blooming. Other plants will be, other animals will be killed by the frost, and these will keep blooming and really are kind of incredible that way. Especially if you have them in a protected area, like in a container garden, you'll be amazed at how long they will bloom, even into kind of colder temperatures. So this is really a hard frost at 25 degrees. Fertilize regularly, definitely do that. And then I did grow these in part sun last year, so this year it's going to be in full sun for sure, because we have a very full sun garden, although it's morning now and there's a little shade over here. And you can do containers or landscapes, so easy care. I would say that's true too. But I did I did grow mine in really pretty much part sun, almost part shade really last year, because my garden was such a shady garden last year, and I was pleased. It really got huge. It didn't seem to mind. I grew it next to coleus. They both did great and did not seem to mind that real part shade conditions. All right, we're just gonna pot it up. Nothing really fancy in the potting up process. Just stick it in a pot with some good quality potting soil. It was a little root bound, but not too bad. I think it is actually going to be a lot happier in this container. Here we go. And now we just find it a good spot to recover. I think right here next to the big sunflower container, it's going to get a lot of good morning sun, some protection from the main heat of the afternoon sun, so hopefully it won't get too scorched, and it's also a little out of the way, so it can just recover and grow up, and then once it's ready and big and beautiful again, we can move it somewhere else. All right, here we are. So when in doubt, go to the garden center. I ended up actually just popping over to the hardware store, and I didn't even get any film of it or anything because I wasn't expecting, but I knew it was on my list to replace that salvia. So I had to pick up some new chairs for the patio, and they had some flowers outside, so I ended up picking up a few things. So I wanted to share with you the plants that I got in order to replace the salvia, and it's actually also been about a week, so I wanted to give you an update too on how that poor little salvia is doing, because it's actually starting to recover a little bit. It's going to be really interesting to watch how the growth habit of that changes and how it grows. But let me show you these plants because these are super fun. So I ended up, I'm kind of on a Calibrachoa kick this year. I have such a hot dry growing space that I think this is like one of the most perfect kind of flowers for that sort of growing conditions. So I picked up another orange. This is a little bit different than the dreamsicle that I have. I have the other beautiful orange calibrachoas in the garden bed already, but these have a little bit of a darker center, which I thought was kind of pretty. This is Orange Kiss. And I really like that. Just kind of like that deeper little dark center, add a little variation. Hopefully it'll tie in nicely with the dreamsicle and kind of coordinate without being too matchy-matchy and give another dimension of orange. Let's see. They're almost the same. Almost the same, but just a slightly different tone and maybe a different, maybe just a little bit of a different look, maybe slightly smaller. Of course, the dreamsicle is a Super Bells, so obviously all those Super Tunia varieties, or not Super Tunia, Proven Winner varieties tend to be really like big and kind of really wild hybrids. Then I grabbed a pink because I want to make sure I'm still getting good variation of color and some good repeat of color. So this is Pink Kiss. It's actually not blooming. The plant looks really healthy, but we've only got like one bloom on it right now. So we're going to get it in some sun and some fertilizer, and hopefully it'll start blooming soon. But this was really pretty, and it's going to have like a little bit of a yellow throat, kind of just similar but pink. But that's good because we've got the pink petunias, but I think we need, we just need a little bit more pink in the garden. And these are just so like packed with flowers. It's just such a good way to really add in a lot of color into the garden. I'm not actually even sure what containers I'm going to put these in yet. So I didn't like totally replace the salvia in the sense of setting up any containers, but I just thought it would be good to have a couple more calibrachoas, kind of get like a little plant stash here that then I can pull from when I want to do other containers. So then I also wanted to grab another petunia. I saw these, actually I need to treat it because there's something I didn't realize until I bought it, but maybe there's like a little fungusy something going on. But nothing is more fun than black petunias. So of course I have the other variety. Over here we've got these really cool dark purple black petunias. These are I keep forgetting the name, but it's the Jewel Midnight Gold, which is so stunning. But I do love just like a classic petunia, but in black. It just kind of sets off and accents, you know, like all the other things in the garden. You can use it in so many different fun color combinations, and it's just really, it's really beautiful. Looks really good with like, you can see the sweet potato vine here, or a purple. You can do it with a red. Yeah, just like, hey there.
It tickles.
Isn't that pretty, the black?
Yeah, because it tickles when I touch.
Yeah, it looks pretty fun. I don't know exactly, again, what I'm gonna pair it with, but I always love the black petunias. I just think they're so cool. I may pair it with this other plant that I got. I couldn't resist trying another dahlia. So it's just barely opening, but we've got a ton of buds all over it. And this is, look how cute, a Star Sister Scarlet and Yellow. Yeah, look at that. I love the dahlias that have like these sort of inner row of like petals that are a different color. I just think that's like the most fun, like whimsical little garden look. So I'm really excited to see how that dahlia is going to do out here in this garden. I'm just trying to hide from all the wind. The wind's already picking up this morning. Yeah, I want to see how this dahlia does. So in my last garden, I had a lot of issues with spider mites, and every time I would get one of those dahlia plants, they would just get riddled with spider mites. So the dahlias are super fun because a lot of these are like container size dahlias. A lot of the dahlias that you see as started plants in the garden center, I'll make a grab it. I think. So these are like container style dahlias. You'll see that the height is 12 to 24 inches tall. So it's not the huge dahlias. Some of the tubers, like the dahlia tubers that you get, turn into just absolutely massive plants. They're gonna get really huge and they're gonna be, you know, 3 feet, 4 feet tall, whatever. This is gonna stay small. It's like the perfect size plant for a container. So pretty. It's gonna be gorgeous. I'm of course loving all the things orange. They're sun to part sun too, so they're really kind of like nice because they're a little versatile there. And in my last garden, that's why part of the reason why I always wanted to try to grow them, because, you know, given that they could handle a little like part shade, that was something that I had a lot of, and they're perfect for containers. But I just had so many spider mites that they never did well at all. So I'm hoping that the spider mites haven't found this garden yet. Like, I'm hoping maybe I won't have as many issues with spider mites in this space, and I might actually be able to enjoy this plant for a little bit longer and not have it kind of like just dying immediately and just getting kind of gross. Like the leaves and everything would just get covered, and no matter how much I tried to stay on top of spraying for them, I just never could quite get out there enough and get it done. I will say that like in my last garden, I did have dahlias that would come back year after year in like a part shade setting. They just would always be plagued by the pest. So we'll see how this does. Now, the only thing I'm slightly worried about this is that I have in my past experience with the dahlias, even though they were having pest issues, they would bloom pretty well, but they would always kind of lull in the middle of the season. So, for, you know, like right around maybe, you know, August or so, they kind of would stop blooming, and then they'd pick up again with the blooms once it cooled down slightly. So that will be interesting to see. We're obviously pretty hot out here, so I may stick this plant a little bit more on the shadier half of the garden. That may be the best way for me to kind of protect the dahlia a little bit, kind of edge toward that part shade situation, just because we get so much heat here. I think actually this coming week we're getting our first like heat advisory. Supposedly we're going to be getting into like, I don't know, 90s, upper 90s. So that's going to mean a lot of gardening, a lot of watering this week, which will be, you know, something I've got to keep an eye on, especially since I just planted a bunch of seeds too. But we'll keep care of this, and I'm gonna keep it over in the part shade. We'll get it potted up, maybe with like one of those caliber colors or something, or maybe just on its own in its own individual pot. I haven't totally decided what I'm doing with that yet. Okay, now let me show you the salvia. It's just been a few days since I filmed, like maybe a week since I filmed the other half of this video, but it's already starting to look good, and I think this plant's gonna survive. You know, plants are pretty, they're pretty sturdy. They kind of just, they keep growing, and it'll be interesting to see the shape of the plant. We may end up with a very bushy plant, but here, let's look at it. So look at this. It's really fleshing out. I think it is going to end up being a very bushy plant because now the center, you know, the center stalks broke, so it's bushing out. But look, blooms. Those are new. It is just pushing out flowers already, growing new stems. Like, the leaves look great. It looks super healthy. I've just been fertilizing it, watering it, making sure it's not, you know, drying out, that it's getting nice amounts of sun. And look at that, just totally recovering. I thought we were gonna have to wait much longer until we saw blooms. Like, I was sure that it was gonna be, I don't know, maybe a month or so, because it was taken back to nothing. But here we are, already setting flowers. That's pretty impressive to me. I think that's, yeah, that's just a great testament to how plants just endure, and they want to bloom and they want to keep going. So blooms, honestly, pretty incredible how quickly this is going to bloom again. I'm going to be really curious to see. It's been a good, you know, I was so disappointed that this happened, but it has been actually a good learning experience and just a really good reminder for me as a gardener. And when these things happen, to not get too disappointed, because I did honestly I felt pretty sad about it when it happened. But it's been a good reminder that, you know what, just give it some time, take care of it. the plants want to grow, they'll come back. Even summer annuals. You know, when these things happen with perennials, it's a little easier to think, oh, I have next year, but even with summer annuals, they can come back. And actually, I ended up bringing the branches that got chopped off, I ended up bringing them inside, and they were really beautiful cut flowers. So it is good to know that those unplugged salvias also make a gorgeous cut flower that lasts really long inside. They're doing beautifully. They have been just a gorgeous cut flower. Well, anyways, the wind is picking up. I've got airplanes flying over. I'm going to go ahead and just water out here and do some other things. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.